And Vice Chair Roscoe, you are good to begin when you're able.
Thanks, Alejandro. Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. The September 11th, 2025 System Expansion Committee meeting, and I will be calling it to order. I am the System Expansion Committee Vice Chair, Kim Roscoe. I want to welcome everyone attending the meeting, both in person and via Zoom. For committee members joining through Zoom, please turn on your camera and state your name prior to making any comments or asking any questions so the public and your fellow committee members know who is speaking. Alejandro, please do roll.
Nancy Backus.
Here.
Board Member Backus is present. Angela Burney.
Here.
Board Member Burney is present. Cassie Franklin. Bruce Harrell.
Here.
Board Member Harrell is present. Ryan Mello. Kim Roscoe.
I think she's present.
She appears frozen. But I will count it as present for now.
Oh,
Dave Summers.
Here.
Board Member Summers is present. Dan Strauss.
Here.
Board Member Strauss is present, and Claudia Balducci. Madam Vice Chair, a quorum of the committee is present at this time.
thank you, Alejandro. Did I unfreeze?
Your audio is coming through clearly. It might just be a video thing.
All right. Thank you. Unfortunately, I will be unable to preside over the entirety of today's meeting. Board rules state that in the absence of the chair and the vice chair, a quorum of the committee must select a member to act as chair pro tem. The selection of the chair pro tem must be made by affirmative vote of the majority of the members in attendance. We've asked Board Member Backus if she would be willing to chair the second meeting of her chairing responsibilities today. And she's able to do that even before my departure from this meeting. At this time, I'll ask for a motion from board members present to appoint Board Member Backus as chair pro tem for today's meeting.
So move to appoint Board Member Backus to chair the meeting.
And a second?
Second. Board Member Harrell.
All right, we have Board Member Burney and Board Member Harrell. First and second, any discussion? All right, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. This is the good and the bad of having these virtual options. I will now hand it over to Board Member Backus to chair the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair. All right, thank you for that. We will move immediately to the CEO report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We were having another exciting meeting or exciting week at Sound Transit. I'm sure you all saw that on Monday night, very late Monday night, early Tuesday morning, we and our partners at the Washington State Department of Transportation achieved the latest critical milestone toward opening service on the East Link extension across Interstate 90. For the first time in the history of the world, electric light rail traveled across a floating bridge under its own power. Successive tests ran at different speeds from 10 miles per hour up to 55 miles per hour. The single car test will be repeated in several different scenarios, running train sets at various lengths and higher speeds. And I want to thank the crews that stayed out until daybreak, ensuring the tests were safe and effective, as well as the media and the transit fans who came out to witness it all. Our social media channels have some great photography and drone video shots of this historic test. I encourage you to check those out. We will continue to work with the Department of Transportation partners and ensure that all systems of this portion of the project function as designed and within their very tight parameters so that we can operate the safest, most reliable service possible from day one, while also ensuring we protect the long-term durability of the 32-year-old floating bridge. This first test went well, and there's still a long way to go. As these first rounds of live wire testing complete, drivers and transit passengers on the bridge will see a pause in the testing to accommodate more planned track and plinth work. I'll keep the committee up to date at every step of the way as testing progresses, but this has been an historic week and a global first, and it brings us one step closer to the opening of the two-line service across Lake Washington. Meanwhile, in South King County, pre-revenue operations are active on the Federal Waylink extension, and I have little to report other than we're making very good progress toward our planned December 6th opening. The public is beginning to see operators running trains as they familiarize themselves with the alignment. The next step is simulated service, where all trains will continue from Angle Lake to Federal Way, which will begin in a few weeks. That concludes my CEO report. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All very exciting news. Can't wait for the Federal Way link extension to be open. December 6th is going to be a great day. We will move to public comment. The System Expansion Committee welcomes public comment as an important part of the public process. Comments are received and considered by the committee in its deliberations. Alejandro, what type of comments were received for today's meeting?
Chair Pro Tem Backus, we did receive written public comment as well as verbal public comment, both in person and virtually. I believe the total verbal public comment comes to 7 commenters.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so for written public comment, board members have received written comments submitted before the meeting. And Alejandra, I'll ask that you read the names and the summaries of those comments.
Our written comments are from Bill Hurt, suggesting the agency delay ST3 projects due to high costs and not enough ridership to reduce congestion. From Betty Lau, encouraging the CEO to direct the agency towards listening to the Chinatown International District community by conducting cost-benefit, racial equity, and socioeconomic analyses of station alternatives before reaching a final decision. And from Brian Chow, supporting System Expansion Committee Chair Balducci's proposal to reevaluate construction of a second downtown tunnel for the Ballard Link extension.
Wonderful. Thank you. So following this meeting, the comments provided in writing will be posted on the Sound Transit website so that the public may view them. Excuse me. I'm going to now give the ground rules for in-person and virtual verbal public comment. And before we take public comment, I want to review the ground rules, and those are as follows. All comments must be germane to the agenda items or items within the committee's purview. Speakers should not make introductory statements or derogatory remarks, profanity, or personal attacks not germane to an agenda item, statements related to a political campaign, or statements for or against a candidate or ballot measure. Speakers should also not engage in conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of this meeting, including conduct that is not germane to the committee's agenda or work. And this is the only warning that speakers will receive. If these rules are not followed, I will ask for the microphone to be turned off. And I appreciate your adherence to these rules. And since we have 7 in-person comments today, is that right, Alejandro? Is that what you said?
7 total verbal comments, so split
7
in
total
person and
verbal.
virtual.
Okay, so each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes total. And will we go to the online or virtual first? Let's see. We will go to in-person first. Thank you.
Our first 2 in-person commenters are Betty Lau and Brian Chow.
Hello, I'm Betty Lau, co-founder of Transit Equity for All and board member of the Zhonghua Benevolent Association of Washington State. I'm encouraged to hear CEO Constantine affirm Sound Transit will listen to communities. In the usual sense, listening means hearing and acting on what is heard. Or it could mean hearing with one ear and out the other. The latter has unfortunately been the case for Chinatown International District for several years. The CID community wants a cost-benefit analysis of the alternatives on the table for the CID segment, including the north of CID rebranded Midtown at James Street. We want a cost-benefit analysis of Midtown at Madison to compare to Midtown at James Street. We want a racial equity analysis of all options in the CID segment, including the north of CID, now in the DSTT segment. Staff did it for South Lake Union. Cahill Ridge said that the racial equity analysis was necessary, quote, for the board to have all information possible before making a final decision, unquote. We expect the same attention to equity for the CID. According to NEPA, we are entitled to full socioeconomic analysis of residents, businesses, community institutions. This study must look at light rail impacts to low-income, non-English speaking peoples of color, 300 businesses, 1,300 senior residents, the environment, cultural, and health institutions in the CID. Make it true that communities are going to be listened to. Thank you. And congratulations on crossing Lake Washington, but it makes me wonder why you can't overcome the loose soils under 4th. Oh, and we want a 90-day comment period. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Chow, co-founder of Transit Equity for All. I strongly support the Balducci plan. For too long, the Chinatown International District has been browbeaten to accept what we call the best of the worst. Station option 5, Fifth Avenue, or north or south of CID, each one carrying devastating impacts and repeating racist inequities. Board members Balducci finally offers a way out. Her plan eliminates all 3 harmful options, protects the CID, and leverages the existing downtown tunnel. This saves billions, keeps the CID streets businesses open, and begins to repair past and current harm. Most importantly, Sound Transit can keep their promise to voters by finishing the Tacoma Everett light rail spine, minus the giant budget disaster. This is not just savings, it's equity, accountability, and leadership. I urge the board to adopt the Balducci plan and make the right choice for the region and for the CID. Protect CID now, finish the Tacoma to Everett light rail spine first, and do the Balducci. Thank you.
Our next commenter is Alex Zimmerman.
Thank you both.
Our state fair is in Puyallup. So there's been a jingle for 50 years. Do the Puyallup. Do the Balducci. Exactly. It's at a former intern camp, so it's really awkward. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Viva Trump, Viva New American Revolution. My name is Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak about agenda number 7D, because I'm totally confused why Bellevue Center needs to spend $1 billion. I don't understand this. Where does money come from? You're talking about you need additional $30 billion? Strange. Yeah. No, to me, it looked like a Ponzi scheme, another 30 billion. Yeah, people like a slave, you know what it means, accept everything. So, why I want to speak about this? It's very interesting. Because I have my dream, you know what it means? Yes, I have my dream. Is this dream when you will be in jail, like a thief, like a bandita, like a mafia. It's very important, you know what it means? Why can country people, 2.5 million, I don't talking about another people, accept you? You suck blood and money. 30 billion for you look like nothing. What this means, this 30 billion? How many thousand million people will be paid for this, huh? Who? You? With your salary, $150,000 or yeah, your boss for $500,000. I totally confused, guys. We're talking about $30 billion, $30 billion, $30 billion. So nothing important. What is I talking? So I want to see you. Yeah, I have a dream, so I can see you all in jail because by definition you are thief, bandita, in mafia. Is this very important? What is I talking about this? Wake up, freaking idiota.
That
Stop
is
this
enough,
Nazi
Mr.
pig.
Zimmerman. Thank you very much. Your time is up. I'm asking that the microphones be turned off. I warned you earlier today that we will not accept derogatory remarks or personal attacks, and you have violated that.
I don't understand. Sorry, my English very stupid. I don't.
Alejandro, if you would like to call the next speakers.
Our remaining two in-person commenters are Paul Swem and Mary Kate Ryan.
Right, testing. Hello, I'm Paul Swem, Seattle lifer, kid of Woodridge Hill, back in the Stone Age. And go Mariners, how about that win last night? So good afternoon, I'm here today to speak to the mission of this transit agency. Many of you don't need to be reminded of this mission statement, but apparently there's some out there, such as special interests, who need to get familiar with it. The focus of a transit agency is rather straightforward in that its primary focus is transit, right? An efficient, safe, reliable, equitable regional transit system. If I'm reading the agency's mission, land development considerations are secondary and should not interfere with the mission of achieving efficiency in the transit network. Quoting the mission statement, or one of them, equitable opportunities. By making transit accessible, the agency aims to create equitable opportunities for all residents. This goes back to the specter of a wrecking ball this agency has placed over the CID with a Fifth Avenue diagonal alternative. Betty and Brian have a point, and I support their mission and their work. I implore you, when the DEIS arrives, to drop the Fifth Avenue alternative and leave this historically harassed community alone. I'm hoping we land on a creative solution that maximizes efficiency and doesn't compromise lives in the CID. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, System Expansion Committee. You've seen me before. My name is Mary Kate Ryan. I work for Historic South Downtown, and we are asking you to support a 90-day comment period for the Ballard Link extension. I don't know how long this one is going to be. WSBLE was about 8,000 pages. We just need time to understand what this is going to mean for the city of Seattle, and we're asking you to support 90 days with FTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Alejandro, I believe that you said this concludes the in-person comments. So
Correct.
Thank you. We'll now turn to comments via Zoom, our virtual meeting platform. And I ask that when your name is called, please identify yourself using the raised hand function in Zoom so that staff can send a prompt for you to unmute. If you're joining the meeting by telephone, press *9 on your phone so you can be identified. You will be instructed how to unmute yourself in order to give your comment.
Our first commenter is David Scott. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm David Scott here for Seattle Subway. So first, we reiterate our vision of a regional system that connects the whole region from DuPont to Tacoma to Everett to Issaquah with rail transit using exclusive right-of-way. And of course, we're super stoked about this week's Cross Lake milestone. Now, we appreciate the board's approach to reconsidering deep assumptions that led to this financial situation. We especially acknowledge Committee Chair Balducci's challenge to the proposed new deep bore tunnel through downtown Seattle. As we all know, bored tunnels are by far the most expensive right-of-way to construct, and they also lead to the worst rider experience due to long vertical travel. But we want all options to be fully studied. And the fact is that there are more possibilities than just a new deep bore tunnel or reusing the existing tunnel. For example, a new pathway could be constructed using cut and cover or elevated options, and those could potentially save money and provide a rider experience and reduce construction time. Similarly, is it possible there would be advantages for new lines to leverage different technologies that might be incompatible with existing link systems, such as high floor or driverless trains? But these are just examples, and our hope for the next few months is for all the options to be explored. No doubt, as this board has said, there are other areas where questioning old assumptions may yield bold ideas, and we would love to see those explored with pros and cons presented fairly and completely. Lastly, we were encouraged to hear several board members emphasize the importance of considering how future additional expansions beyond what is currently funded should influence decisions today, and we would of course love to discuss any details of our vision map with you at any time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
And our final commenter today is Joe Kunzler.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Joe Kunzler here, Go South Transit. I have a lot to talk about in only 2 minutes. First, on a point of parliamentary privilege, you've had to, as Board Member Bernie will hopefully confirm for me, Mr. Zimmerman has now been removed from 2 committee public comment periods and needs to be suspended for at least 30 days, if not a year, please. Just want to point that out immediately. His behavior, I have to say, I got a real headache from it. I only got 90 seconds left to talk about the importance of Everett Link and then something else. So I'm going to get going here. Everett Link is very important to me as a second generation Scantonian resident and a huge Go Sound Transit fan. You know, it's great we had Monday Night Football, Sound Transit style, getting the sexy white rail across Lake Washington. And we need to get that done promptly. There's a very special community at the end of that line that desperately deserves a championship, as much as she's got a great president and a good mayor. But we do desperately need that line to eventually get to downtown Everett, which has become a transit hub and a place of hope and opportunity. And we also need to connect Payne Field, if at all humanly possible, please. And we need to understand that people are priced out of Seattle, that Seattle has continued to resist density and accessible housing. So there has to be a consequence, which is we need to focus on getting light rail to accessible, affordable housing and dense housing so everyone can have a transportation option that's safe and economical. And finally, with transportation safety becoming an issue again, I want to thank the urbanist. I can't believe I'm thanking the urbanist, but I am for reporting that thankfully South Transit is re-exploring fare gates. I 100% endorse this. We need fare gates now, especially with the Trump administration focusing on enforcement, coupling that to transit grants. My time has ran out. So as always, Go South Transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kunzler.
There's everyone who has signed up for public comment today. I do want to note Board Member Mello has joined us.
Thank you, Alejandro. All right, and welcome, Board Member Mello. We will move on to item 6, which is System Expansion Monthly Status Report, and I will ask Terry Mustis, Capital Delivery Deputy CEO, to begin the presentation. Terry?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm happy to have the opportunity to provide our monthly status report. Let's go to the next slide, please. As always, I'll be covering some program updates and then project updates. Those are 4 projects, both in planning and design and in construction. Let's go to the next slide. A quick slide to show us the KPIs that we'll be seeing on the subsequent slides that identify performance. Let's go to the next slide. So some program level updates. We continue to be performing very well in regards to prompt payment. We're paying on average within 21 days. That's beating our 30-day target. On construction safety, we did have one OSHA recordable injury incident, which was on the downtown Redmond link extension project, where a laborer tripped over some vegetation. We are looking into the issue and always looking for measures to prevent further actions through training and process. Let's go to the next slide, please. For projects in planning and design, this is our performance tracker. No significant updates to report this month. One of the changes you will be seeing next month is there are a few STRIDE projects that will be moving over to the construction tracker. We have a presentation later on in the agenda today that gives a detailed status on those projects. We also have an in-depth presentation today on 2 of our link extension projects in regards to cost performance. Let's go to the next slide. For our projects in construction, we continue to make excellent progress. You can see there in the column called average % construction complete, the number in parentheses in green shows our progress for the month. Notable progress here is that for the Federal Way link extension, you can see the date of December 6th for the opening. And also, we are making significant progress on Eastlink, as CEO Constantine said in his remarks. I'd like to hand it over to our Executive Director, Michael Morgan, who oversees the link extension project, to give us a detailed update.
Thank you for that. So just quickly on Eastlink, late last week, we were able to obtain concurrence with WashDOT to run a power train on their bridge. WashDOT's been a very good partner in working with us, in helping us understand and commission the cathodic protection system on the bridge. So that allowed us to, earlier this week, run the 2 nights of testing. So we ran 2 nights of testing. First night went very well. We did a number of runs. Second night went well again, up to 55 miles per hour through the 2 tunnels across the floating bridge. So very excited with those results. That was our first time of testing everything as a kind of a consolidated integrated system, traction power, straight current system, track systems, vehicle systems, everything together working as it should. We're very pleased with the preliminary results of the system and of the protections that were in place to prevent stray current from occurring, from happening in the bridge. We didn't measure any occurrences of stray current, which was the objective, and so that's a very good outcome. Currently, the team is reviewing the data, understanding next steps. There is some construction work on site now, just doing some tweaking to the overhead catenary system. It hasn't been used in a number of months, so they're working on that now. Our next big activity is planned for next week. We are aiming to try for a 4-car test on the bridge, which would be the first time we put a vehicle of that size and weight on the bridge to measure the deflection. In the meantime, there will be a series of smaller tests with a single vehicle from time to time as we run a test, check some things, commission the OCS, the overhead catenary system. So back and forth, aiming for next week with that larger 4-vehicle test. So that's very good news. This really kind of kicks off the start of system integration testing and allows us to really make inroads in the testing program. Happy to take any questions at the end. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to Deputy CEO Mustis.
Thank you, Michael. Next slide, please. Coming up soon here in Q4, we do have a presentation on projects in planning and design that'll come to the committee. And as always, looking for feedback on any refinements to the monthly report from the committee members. And with that, that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Michael. Does the committee have any questions?
Chair, this is Board Member Burney.
Yes, Board Member Burney.
Thank you so much. First of all, just thank you so much for the updates on the crossing the bridge. I know I could have watched it in the middle of the night, but I do really like to sleep. So I appreciate all of the employees out there ensuring that it happened. It's great to hear that they ran a second night and getting up to speed. Really excited about 4 cars. I have to say I've been getting a lot of questions about when things are going to happen, and I do think that this milestone will really help people see that this is possible and we're working our way toward it. But I just want to thank you and the staff for getting this going as we're all very excited to find out what Q2 of 2026 means and what date that is. So looking forward to the next report.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right. Moving on, we will move to item 7, business items. And there are 7 business items on the agenda today, 2 that are for committee final action and 5 for recommendation to the board. And I will call on one staff presenter and ask that you identify yourself and any other presenters. If there are multiple presenters on one topic, I will also ask that you introduce yourself when you begin your section of the presentation, so that the committee and the public know who is speaking. For the first item today, it is the minutes of the August 14th, 2025 System Expansion Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. This is Board Member Burney.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, this is Strauss.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? None. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone want to say something? All right, I'm going to assume no. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes of the August 14th, 2025 System Expansion Committee meeting, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, please say no. All right, the minutes pass. We'll move to motion number M 2025-45. And I'll ask Bernadette McDermott, our Capital Delivery Center of Excellence Executive Director, to begin the staff presentation for on-call appraisal contracts. And then Bernadette, if you will also introduce any additional presenters.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Baucus and members of the committee. I'm Bernadette McDermott, Executive Director of the Center of Excellence in our Capital Delivery Department. With me is Clint Dameron, our Acting Director of Real Property, and Bob Hartner, our Appraisal Manager. We're here to present motion M2025-45, which seeks committee due pass recommendation to award new on-call contracts for real property appraisal services. I'm pleased to share the results of our recent procurement process for on-call appraisal services. We've selected a comprehensive mix of firms, varying in size and including strong local representation, which we believe will provide valuable support for the increasing workload of appraisals in the ST3 program. At this time, I will turn it over to Clint Dameron, who will walk you through the specifics of the motion.
Hello, I'm Clint Dameron, Acting Director of Real Property. Today, we are requesting approval to execute new contracts for on-call appraisal services similar to previous procurements. The contracts will total spending authorization up to $27 million over contracts with 9 separate real estate valuation firms. The contracts will have base terms of 5 years plus 2 one-year extension options. Next slide, please. This motion does not include a request for any new funding. Any expenditures made under these contracts would be provided through board-approved capital and operating budgets on a task order basis. Furthermore, those expenditures have already been incorporated in the annual operating plan and capital project budgets and have no additional impact to the agency's long-range financial plan. Bob Hartner will now lead you through the details of the request. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Hartner, and I'm Sound Transit's appraisal manager. Sound Transit regularly contracts valuation services from outside appraisal firms. These services, consisting of appraisal reports, independent appraisal reviews, market research, and project funding estimates, are used by the agency to purchase property rights for new and expanding projects, sell surplus property no longer needed by the agency, insure agency assets, and for budgeting and planning purposes. For the past 5.5 years, Sound Transit has had on-call service contracts with 6 local firms. These contracts are currently scheduled to expire in February 2026. Approval of new contracts will ensure that the agency has adequate resources for upcoming projects and that there's no gap in coverage of appraisal services needed by the agency. Next slide, please. Between 2026 and 2030, Sound Transit anticipates needing over 2,200 appraisal reports based on the agency's current project schedule. Appraisal workload is expected to peak during 2027 and 2028, during which over 600 appraisals are expected to be ordered annually. Workload will significantly exceed that required for ST2, which peaked in the 2018 calendar year when approximately 500 appraisal reports were ordered. Next slide, please. In mid-2025, Sound Transit issued a request for proposal for new on-call appraisal contracts. The RFP was intended to address the expiration of the current contracts, as well as the significant increase in upcoming appraisal needs expected to exceed the capacity of our current contractors. After evaluation, 9 firms were chosen based on the following criteria: pricing, firm capacity, experience and expertise, and ST contracting goals. Of the 9 chosen firms, 6 are local to the ST service area and 4 are small in size. It should be noted there are currently no right-of-way appraisal firms listed as disadvantaged businesses on the Washington State Registry, so there is no DB goal for this solicitation. Next slide, please. So, in summary, we're requesting approval to enter into on-call contracts with 9 appraisal firms for the next 5 to 7 year period. Total combined spending for all 9 contracts would not exceed $27 million, and this authorization is expected to meet all the agency's real property valuation needs for the contract period. Next slide. This concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Right. Thank you, Bernadette, Clint, and Bob. Are there any questions from our committee members? I am not hearing any. So Alejandro, would you please read the action into the records?
Motion number M 2025-45 is a motion of the System Expansion Committee of the Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to execute 9 individual contracts for 5 years, each with 2 one-year options to extend, with ABS Valuation, CIC Valuation, CBRE, Cushman & Wakefield, Integra Realty Resources, McKee Appraisal, National R/W Review Appraisal, RP Herman & Associates, and Sova Consulting to provide Sound Transit with appraisal services such that the aggregate total of the 9 contracts does not exceed $27 million over the potential 7-year period, and the task orders exceeding $10 million or are restricted by resolution number R 2021-05 are subject to committee or board approval.
Thank you, Alejandro. Is there a motion to approve motion number M 2025-45?
So moved. This is Board Member Burney.
Second,
Thank
this is
you.
Strauss.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Chair, this is Strauss.
Yes, please.
Just to say thank you to the team for the briefing earlier this week. You answered all my questions and I appreciate the time. Good job.
All right. If there are no other questions, all those in favor of motion M 2025-45, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion M 2025-45 passes. Moving to motion number M 2025-46, I will ask Terry Mestis again to begin the staff presentation for a design services MATOC action, and please introduce any additional presenters.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm here today joined by Huey Newsome, our Chief Financial Officer, as well as Kevin Kelly, the Deputy Director of Design and Construction Contracts and Procurement. With that, let's go to the next slide. The motion that we're bringing before you today is to approve 18 individual multiple award task order contracts for 5 years with 2 one-year renewals. It has a capacity of $1 billion. I'll go through this in great detail over the next few slides. Let's go to the next slide. So this, similar to the previous MATOC, the environmental MATOC that we brought to the committee and to the board in July, this is not a budget allocation request. This is asking for capacity, and the dollars would come from the projects. I'd like to hand it off to our CFO to speak on this matter.
Right. So the dollar amount of, I do want to comment on the dollar amount of $1 billion. It's an estimate based on historical ST2 design services spending. And what we did was we applied that percentage over and reallocated it based on ST3. And so this estimate is intentionally conservative and designed to provide flexibility for all the projects that will be within this. And because this isn't a budget allocation, it doesn't directly impact the affordability of the agency's long-range financial plan.
Thank you.
And I hand it back over to Terry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, and I just want to emphasize the last text there on the slide. This has been a very collaborative effort with legal, finance, CRE, and procurement. You'll see some processes coming up where you see that collaboration. Let's go to the next slide, please. This slide is a very similar slide to what you saw on the environmental MATOC, but I'll go through some of the key features and any differences. So MATOC is a multiple award task order contract. It's multi-year. This is for professional services. So the selection is based on qualifications and not on price. As our CFO shared, the capacity amount that we're looking for is $1 billion. We are through a lot of the environmental process on ST3. The phase that's yet to come is a lot of design work, hence the larger capacity for this MATOC. We have awards with small, medium, and large primes, and we have the ability to add primes and subconsultants at any time during the contract. This does fulfill the TAG recommendations to have more firms or have more capacity to support our large capital program. It also fulfills our equity and infrastructure pledge, which Sound Transit signed last year, which pledged to have more awards to historically underutilized businesses. And it's also a cost-saving opportunity in our enterprise initiative. The dial on the right-hand side is something that we showed at the committee last year in October as areas where we could come and influence the cost, decrease cost, and get some efficiencies. This particular contract methodology fits into the indirects and also allows us to proceed and do design optimization. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is part of our enterprise initiative, as I just mentioned. What we're looking to achieve here with the implementation of the MATOCs is an overall savings through all of the program opportunities together to include this of 5%. And that's a significant amount across our large program. This is attributed to reduced staff time, to do a multitude of very lengthy procurements. It will allow us to stay on schedule by utilizing the task order process to move our work forward. We're also able to implement standard terms and pricing, such as standard rates to do this work. Let's go to the next slide, please. So the MATOC scope, as our CFO mentioned, is based on looking at the historical costs in ST3. looking at the cost ahead and life cycle cost. In regards to design, we use design services in every phase, not just during the design phase, but also during the construction phase to validate what the contractor is doing through processes like submittals and RFIs. We also wanted to ensure that there was sufficient capacity for agency-wide use to benefit the agency, whether it be an agency oversight or service delivery. The list that you see there at the bottom is the types of scope that this MATOC will support. Let's go to the next slide, please. The MATOC will use the same process that we have been using for all of our bench contracts. Sound Transit has been using bench contracts for many years. We have current bench contracts in place now, and MATOC is like a bench contract. So we will be adhering to the resolution that you see here noted on the slide, which means that task orders over $10 million will come to the System Expansion Committee. Task orders over $50 million will go to the board for approval. With that, I'd like to hand it over to our CFO for any additional comments.
One thing I will say here, in addition to what DCO Mestis just said, is the spending authority obviously is set by policy here. We adhere to policy 604, which is governed by Resolution 2023. And so what you see here is kind of a hierarchy of different policies, starting with State of Washington, RCW 8112, down to here. The point of this is to show that the MATOC adheres to this umbrella of coverages and mandates and legislation. And so it's very important for you to understand, and this is, I think, why it's important for you to have, FBA here with CDD to talk through this. We are all dedicated to making sure that the spirit and the letter of these policies are adhered to with the MATOC.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide, please. This slide shows us the opportunities and the risks that this type of contract methodology brings. There are a lot of opportunities or benefits. These opportunities and benefits are not just only for Sound Transit, but also for our industry partners. A few of those are things that I've mentioned. We're able to increase engagement with local firms, more awards to local firms, building capacity, and again, a bigger bench of historically underutilized businesses. For Sound Transit, we are able to use our staff time in a more efficient manner, not having to go through full procurements, and as well as during the process of managing the MATOCs, it's going to be much more streamlined with those set terms that go across all of the contracts that we're recommending to be approved here. On the risks are typical to professional services contracts. This is things like errors and omissions. That is no different on the MATOCs. But I'd like to hand it over to Kevin Kelly to add some additional information.
Hello, my name is Kevin Kelly. I am a Deputy Director within the Procurement Contracts and Agreements Division. I'm happy to endorse the MATOC procurement tool for Sound Transit on behalf of procurement. Okay, next slide, please. The PCA will be overseeing the task order process. And as you can see on this slide, there'll be many departments within Sound Transit who will be involved in collaboration on creating the task orders. A monthly report will be provided to the board of all task orders that were signed in the previous month between $250,000 and $10 million, with the rest of the task orders above that having already gone to the board.
Thank you, Kevin. I'd like to just point out that we're looking to complete the task order process between 30 and 60 days. Procurements take us generally many months to get through, so there's a lot of efficiency to be gained there. And also note how many other partnerships we have with Finance, CRE, Legal, and others to get through this process in an efficient way. Let's go to the next slide, please. This slide shares the extensive amount of outreach that we did. You can see there over 17 outreach events across our taxing district. We had more than 200 companies participate in the procurement. Shows the tremendous interest in the MATOCs. and outreach to over 400 small and diverse business enterprises. The dial that you see there on the right is distribution of firms that are both primes and subs that we're recommending to get award today. You can see that the majority of the firms are small and diverse businesses at 62%. The MATOCs do represent the largest number of awards to local and small firms for the agency. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is a summary slide that shows you the firms that we're recommending to be in the design MATOC. It's 18 primes, 248 subconsultants. 3 primes are new to Sound Transit, and 74 subs are new to Sound Transit. That is real capacity building. Very exciting. 149 local firms, 116 small and diverse businesses, and 3 primes that were previously subconsultants. It's great to see that progression where they can now become primes. All in all, 77 new firms coming forward to support Sound Transit on the Design MATOC. When you look at the numbers to include the environmental MATOC, it's 115 new firms in total and 218 local firms supporting Sound Transit's efforts. Let's go to the next slide, please. Next steps, we are working on a project management construction management MATOC or a PMCM MATOC. We're planning on bringing forward that recommendation to the committee in Q4. You will start seeing reports, these dashboards on the MATOCs to see what actions are being taken. And of course, those over 10 million and 50 million will come to the committee and to the full board. There is active firm onboarding happening with Cree, very successful there. And we're looking to implement some technology solutions to help us manage the task order process. And we're working on our first task orders here to go out on the environmental MATOC in September. With that, that concludes our presentation. We're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Terry, Huey, Kevin. Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions from the committee members?
Chair Backus, this is Board Member Burney.
Yes.
I have a question. Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate the efficiency of all of this. I'm really excited about bringing on a lot of new local companies in order for us to complete our work. There's been some conversations regionally about ensuring that maybe businesses that haven't participated in programs have the support that they need and then the monitoring that we need to ensure that dollars are being spent wisely and getting to the end product that we want. I know you've talked about it a bit. Can you share a little bit more about how you will kind of bring those items up to the board as we progress through this? If you have a little more detail, would be great.
Sure. Thank you for that question. And just to clarify, Board Member Burney, this is how we're going to be engaging with the firms and then reporting that out to the board?
How we're ensuring that the work that they're doing is exactly what we want to do. When you talked a little about some text solutions and some other things. So I just want a little more detail about that and maybe how you'll report back to us as well to ensure that we're keeping our eye on that.
Thank you for that. A few things. In our monthly report, we will be reporting on the task order process and how it's being implemented into the projects. So you're going to see it on a monthly basis there. In addition to that, procurement is preparing a dashboard that's going to go to the committee and to the board to show how we're allocating dollars and on what scope for each of the projects. Bear in mind that we're not able to award any task orders unless those funds have been allocated and they're in the appropriate phase. But we'll clarify that as we report to the board what's been approved, allocated, and then the task order that can come out of that. In addition to that, as we provide our monthly updates and as we do our in-depth planning and design updates to the committee, we'll go in great detail to show you how we're utilizing the MATOCs, how they're supporting the appropriate scope, and obviously within the dollars.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other members who have a question?
Chair, this is Strauss.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy CEO Mestis, as I said earlier this week, the second time through a program is easier than the first time. All of this makes good sense. It really is helpful that we already went through the MATOC process previously. And Mr. Newsom, I fully understand why there's a bigger dollar figure, as well as I think the most important thing for the public and for us to understand is this is not appropriation authority. There is that secondary accountability measure still baked into our process. So thank you for this. I'll be supporting it today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, Alejandro, I hate to ask you to do this because I've read what the action is. Not that it's a bad action, it's just there's a lot of words. Would you please read the action into the record?
Of course. Motion number M 2025-46 is a motion of the Board of the Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to execute 18 individual multiple award task order contracts for 5 years, each with 2 one-year options to extend. With AECOM Technical Services, Inc., Chudgar Engineering Company, Inc., David Evans and Associates, Inc., DeLeon Consulting Engineers Corporation, Dowell LLC, Gals Zadler Consultants LLC, Hewitt Architects, Inc., Hewitt Zollers, Inc., M. Arthur Gensler Jr. and Associates, Inc., Obunco Engineering International, Inc., Pacific Railway Enterprises, Inc., Pac Rim Engineering, Inc., Parametrics, Inc., Parsons Transportation Group, Inc., Rail Pros, Inc., Signal Architecture and Research P. LLC, Toltz King Duval Anderson and Associates, Inc., and WSP USA, Inc., to provide Sound Transit with design and engineering services such that the aggregate total of the 18 contracts does not exceed $1 billion over the potential 7-year period, and the task orders executing $10 million or restricted by resolution number R 2021-05 are subject to committee or board approval.
Thank you, Alejandro. Well done. All right, is there a motion to forward motion number M 2025-46 to the board with a due pass recommendation?
This is Board Member Burney, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Strauss, second.
Thank you. I was about to ask for Board Member Bueller if they wanted to chime in. Are there any questions or comments?
Chair, just with that last comment, if you run the train backwards, does it reduce the odometer?
Is there an odometer?
All right. With that, all those in favor of forwarding motion M 2025-46 to the full board with a due pass recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no. Motion 2025-46 passes. Moving to resolution number R 2025-26. I will ask Manon Garg, Executive Director in the Capital Delivery Department, to begin the staff presentation for 2 actions related to the STRIDE program. And please introduce any additional presenters.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Bacchus. My name is Manan Garg. I'm the Executive Director overseeing the STRIDE program. With me today is Rick Kapka, our Executive Project Director, and our Director of Construction, Calvin Nutt. Next slide, please. Today, we are here to seek your due pass recommendation for the 2 actions for the STRIDE BRT program. The first is Resolution R 2025-26 to amend the I-405 Bus Rapid Transit Project Baseline Budget. The next is the motion M 2025-47 for approval of a construction contract for the Kenmore Bottle segments of the State Route 522 BRT projects, specifically the roadway and station infrastructure. Next slide, please. And this is just to bring us back. The STRIDE program was baselined into 4 projects, namely the bus space operational and maintenance facility, which is shown in the pink on the left of the map. I-405, which has 2 service lines, S1, Burin to Bellevue, targeted opening in 2028. S2, Bellevue to Linwood, opening in 2029. SR 522 is the S3 line serving Bottle to Shoreline, opening in phases, starting in 2028. Next slide, please. The STRIDE BRT program includes 12 projects in total. We actually now have 5 projects in active construction, 4 projects in procurement for construction services, and 3 projects in design. Today's items are highlighted in green on this slide, namely SR 522 Kenmore Bottle, which is project number 11, and KCM funding agreements. These agreements support sharing investments at the Renton and Bellevue Transit Centers and help us maintain project integration across agencies. Next slides, please. So on August 12th, we celebrated a major milestone, breaking ground on the critical bus operations and maintenance facility in the city of Bottle. This is the critical hub for the STRIDE BRT program. I want to share my big thank you to our elected officials, board members for your leadership and continued support, and to our Sound Transit staff for your hard work in getting us to this point. This groundbreaking reflects progress, partnership, and the momentum behind building a better transit future for our communities. And with that, I will hand off the presentation to Rick Kapka.
All right, thank you, Manan. Good afternoon, Chair Backus, members of the System Expansion Committee. Let's go to the next slide. So I'm covering the first item, the resolution that's before you. If you can go to the next slide. Okay, so in collaboration with our partners at King County Metro, we've recently developed and executed 2 funding agreements that were not previously incorporated into the program budget. The first is a $50 million funding agreement for the Renton Transit Center, wherein Sound Transit will construct bus layover, bus bays, roadway improvements, and communication systems, all for King County Metro. The second is a $2 million funding agreement for the Bellevue Transit Center, where Sound Transit will install new lighting, signage improvements, along with updated painting and pavement markings for King County Metro. So in coordination with our finance team, we are seeking it to amend the project budget by $52 million to account for these 2 funding agreements. It's important to note this action is net neutral and will not affect the affordability of the agency's finance plan. Let's go to the next slide. So in summary, we request the committee's do pass recommendation to amend the 405 BRT project budget to incorporate the King County Metro funding agreements at both Renton Transit Center and Bellevue Transit Center. This will increase the authorized I-405 BRT project allocation by $52 million. I do want to close with my piece by acknowledging the strong partnership that we've had with our King County Metro team members on the STRIDE program thus far. We look forward to incorporating these important King County Metro improvements as we build out the STRIDE program. And as we go to the next slide, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Calvin Nutt, who is our construction director for the STRIDE BRT program, to cover our second item.
Thanks, Rick, and good afternoon, Chair Backus and members of the System Expansion Committee. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So we're seeking the committee's do pass recommendation to execute a construction contract for the Kenmore and Bothell State Route 522 roadway and station improvements contract. The total authorized not to exceed amount is $51,266,393. It's fully funded within the baseline project, and the project is tracking on budget and schedule. Next slide, please. This contract is on the S3 line that Manan mentioned earlier, and this is one of the 3 civil construction contracts we are developing to construct the needed improvements. You can see it highlighted in green on the graphic to the right there. The contract will construct 14 total station platforms, install traffic signal improvements along the corridor, including transit signal priority, and a center queue bypass lane as the service line enters Bothell. Our work will also include various utility relocations along the corridor, which have been extensively coordinated with our utility partners throughout design. Next slide, please. This contract is the first of 3 contracts, as I mentioned, on the S3 service line. It was baselined in 2023 and scheduled to start service in late 2028. The S3 project is tracking on budget and schedule. And as part of this procurement, I note that we received 2 bids. Both were within our budget and both were underneath the engineer's estimate. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we're requesting the do pass recommendation to execute the construction contract for the Kenmore and Bothell State Route 522 roadway and station improvements. And I'll also acknowledge, like Rick did, development of this contract was a collaboration between Sound Transit, WashDOT, Kenmore, Bothell, and other third-party partners. And we're looking forward to working with Atkinson Construction. It's a contractor with a lot of WashDOT experience that will be valuable for the delivery of this work. I think we're on the next slide, and you got it, Rick. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're happy to entertain any questions at this time for these two items.
Thank you very much, Manon. My apologies for mispronouncing your name when I called you originally.
All good, Madam Chair. Yeah, all
Thank
good, Madam
you.
Chair.
And Rick and Calvin, thank you all for your presentation. Committee members, are there any questions that you have before we consider these two items?
Chair Backus, this is Board Member Bernie.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you all very much representing this part of the area. I know that these cities and community members who live here are very excited to get this going and off the ground. So excited to be able to vote for this and see the progress that we're going to have in the next few years to get people out of their cars and into this amazing system. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, we will see. I'll ask Alejandro to read the action into the records.
The first action is resolution number R 2025-26, a resolution of the Board of the Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority amending the adopted 2025 budget to adjust the I-405 Bus Rapid Transit Project baseline budget for accounting treatment of King County Metro funding agreements at Renton Transit Center and Bellevue Transit Center by increasing the authorized project allocation by $52 million from $1,269 million to $1,321 million.
Thank you, Alejandro. Is there a motion to forward resolution number R 2025-26 to the board with a due pass recommendation?
So moved. This is Board Member Bernie.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Strauss, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor of forwarding resolution R 2025-26 to the board with a due pass recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. All right, we will move to motion number M 2025-47. And that was part of the presentation that we just heard. Is that correct? Yes. Are there any
Correct.
questions? Thank you. All right, Alejandro, would you read the action into the record, please?
Motion number M 2025-47 is a motion of the Board of the Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to execute a contract with Guy F. Atkinson Construction LLC for construction services for the Stride Kenmore Bothell SR 522 roadwork and stations, components of the Stride Bus Rapid Transit SR 522/Northeast 145th Street project in the amount of $44,579,472 with a 15% contingency of $6,686,921 for a total authorized contract amount not to exceed $51,266,393.
Thank you, Alejandro. Is there a motion to forward motion M 2025-47 to the board with a due pass recommendation?
So moved. This is Board Member Bernie.
Thank
Strauss
you.
is a second.
Thank you very much. Is there any question, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of forwarding motion M 2025-47 to the full board with a due pass recommendation, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. All right, we'll move to motion number M 2025-48, and Manon, I believe you are up again to begin the staff presentation for a contract modification and budget amendment for the Everett Link extension.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Backus, and thank you very much for that. My name is Manan Garg, Executive Director overseeing the Everett Link Extension. With me today is Josh Patagas, our Executive Project Director, and Eric Wittstrand, our Director of Planning. Next slide, please. Today, we are here to seek your do-pass recommendation for the two link actions for the Everett Link Extension Program. The first is a contract modification for additional Phase 2 project development work, and the second is a budget amendment to increase the authorized project allocation. The contract motion, M 2025-48, is contingent on approval of the budget amendment resolution R 2025-27. Next slide, please. So in terms of scope, reach, and benefits for the Everett Link Line Extension, this is a 16-mile light rail extension from Linwood to Everett with 6 new stations and 1 provisional station. This extension completes the North Corridor, providing a major transportation upgrade in region and especially for the Snohomish County, following the success of Linwood Link Extension. This also provides commuter efficiency and reduces the number of cars on major highways like I-5 and SR 99. Links residents to 100,000 plus regional jobs, enhancing workforce access and facilitating growth and development, especially around station hubs such as Painfield, Boeing. It also provides a seamless connection between light rail, bus, bike, and ped networks for greater convenience and flexibility. Next slide, please. This project also includes Operation and Maintenance Facility, aka OMF North, for environmental clearance purposes. This OMF provides essential operational capacity to support Everett Link and system-wide expansion. It has the capability of storing, maintaining, and repairing 150 plus light rail vehicles, ensuring reliable service and future growth, and will generate 450 plus highly skilled living wage jobs, strengthening the local economy and workforce development. Next slide, please. This timeline shows Everett Link's progress through the Sound Transit's 3 project phases. We are currently in Phase 2, completing conceptual engineering and preparing on target to publish the draft EIS in early 2026. In summer of 2026, we will come back to the board to confirm, modify, or identify the preferred alternative. Subsequently, we will move to Phase 3 to advance the preferred alternative through preliminary engineering and complete the final EIS. In 2027, we will come to the board and board will select the project to be built, leading into final design. And with that, I will hand off the presentation to our Director of Planning, Eric Wittstrand.
Thanks, Manan. Let's go to the next slide. And next slide. So we are seeking board approval to exercise a contract modification with Kimley Horn for Phase 2 work in the amount of $80.3 million. This slide provides a brief history of the contract award for the Everett Link Extension. Kimley Horn was awarded the contract for project development services in 2020, which provided 2 contract options for Phases 2 and 3. The Phase 2 option was authorized by the board in 2023, supporting development of the draft EIS and conceptual engineering services. This month, we're asking the board to consider approving a contract modification for Phase 2. We expect to return to the board in 2026 to seek approval to exercise the contract option for Phase 3 to publish the final EIS and complete preliminary engineering. Next slide. In June 2023, the Sound Transit Board authorized M 2023-47 for the Phase 2 contract with a 24-month duration through June 2025. Since then, the contract schedule has been updated to address evolving requirements for the federal NEPA process, resulting in additional time and coordination with FTA before the draft EIS will be published. The contract modification also supports design and analysis of more alternatives in the draft EIS than the scope originally assumed. In addition, the cost-saving effort conducted during the past 9 months was not anticipated during scoping and budgeting at the beginning of Phase 2 in 2023. In addition, to maintain the project delivery schedule, this action would advance key scope items from Phase 3, including critical geotechnical borings, field evaluations, OMF North critical area mitigation planning efforts, and advanced conceptual engineering to support cost estimates needed for draft grant agreements. The total contract amendment would be a not to exceed amount of $141.5 million for phase 2. This total amount is within the typical range for this phase of the project as a percent of the total project budget. I'll turn it over to Josh Patagus now.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Backus and fellow board members. I'm Josh Patagus, the Executive Project Director for the Everett Link Extensions. Next slide, please. One more. There we go. So Resolution R 2025-27 is to advance EVLE through the completion of the DEIS and the conceptual engineering phase 2. This resolution has two parts. It increases the total authorized project allocation by $120.3 million from $196.9 million to $317.2 million. And B increases the adopted 2025 annual project budget by $8 million from $41.1 million to $52.1 million. Next slide, please. This slide shows a breakdown of how the $120 million budget request will be distributed. An additional $8 million is requested for the year of 2025, and with the remaining $112.3 million request for 2026 and beyond. This brings the total authorized allocation to $317.2 million. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the key items the amendment will support: draft environmental impact statement, the OMF North mitigation plans, the cost-saving opportunities, and the project management support services, or PMCM, via the MATOC. Note the PMCM accounts for $40 million of the $120 million budget amendment. This is only requesting budget authorization. EVLE will come back to the board to request approval to enter a MATOC PMCM task order at a future date. Other items not included on the slide: it's an analysis of additional alternatives, advanced conceptual engineering, similar to what Eric was just mentioning, geotechnical field work, site investigations, and outreach and engagement. A key note to the bottom of the slide here is the revised preliminary engineering and construction services PMCM phase allocations are within the fall 2024 affordable finance plan phase estimates. And the cost increases are not considered material to overall program affordability. Next slide, please. This is our favorite slide. This slide illustrates today's budget amendment, R 2025-27. The project's current authorized allocation is $197 million. The magenta box on the left highlights the proposed $120 million allocation revision, which is needed to support today's Kimley Horn preliminary engineering contract action, M 2025-48, and future staff augmentation via MATOC, both split in the two magenta boxes on the right hand of the slide. Approval of the budget amendment and contract action would increase the Everett Link Extension authorized allocation to $317 million and reduce the uncommitted budget to $75 million. Now I want to hand it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Huey, and I'm going to give you my chat.
Thank you very much. One thing I wanted to point out here, and I think this has been something that the committee has requested, this chart here. Again, we feel like the additional $120 million that's being added here doesn't have a material impact on the affordability within the long-range financial plan. In light of the fact that we are going through the enterprise initiative, we don't think this has a material impact one way or the other on what that looks like. But I do want to make sure that it's very clear, to the committee what we're doing here today. The $120 million, which is taking the $40 million for construction services and the extra $80 million for preliminary engineering for Kimley Horn, this does adhere to our normal budgetary practices of giving you all control over phases, as well as us giving you the, I'll say the transparency into the different buckets in which these dollars would be split into. So I say that in light of the fact that we are going through the budget policy changes. We continue to make sure that transparency is clear. Okay. Next slide, please. And so with that, before you again, the budget amendment resolution, which I know Alejandro will be reading into the minutes here in a minute, is specific to the budget, what we just discussed, along with the contract action as well. You're welcome. And with that, I think we can take questions.
All right. Thank you, Manon, Josh, Eric, and Huey for the presentation. Do any of the committee members have any questions?
Madam Chair, one quick question.
Yes. Member Summers.
The sort of allocation between engineering versus construction, the 80 versus the 40, is that kind of in line where we thought we'd be, or does that seem out of whack at all?
Good afternoon, Chair Summers. It is in line. What we're trying to do is move some of the flexibility of the construction services funds up front to get us shovel ready. So it is in line with what was anticipated.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. We will, let's see. This is, we'll ask Alejandro to read the action into the record, please.
And Chair Backus, I do want to note there is one small typo that I missed when putting the action language together. I will attempt to accentuate that and make it obvious for the committee. Motion number M 2025-48 is a motion of the Board of the Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to execute a contract modification with Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. for additional Everett Link Extension and Operations and Maintenance Facility North Phase 2 work for project development services, including advancement of conceptual engineering and preparation of the draft EIS, and a partial exercise of a contract option to advance specific geotechnical scopes from Phase 3 of the contract in the amount of $73 million with a 10% contingency of $7,300,000, totaling $80,300,000 for a new total authorized contract amount not to exceed $173,510,897, contingent upon adoption of resolution number R 2025-27.
Thank you. 512,000. I think I heard 510,000.
512, correct.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Is there a motion to forward M 2025-48 to the board with a due pass recommendation?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, this is Board Member Burney.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of M 2025-48, moving that to the full board with a due pass recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no. M 2025-48 passes. Moving to resolution number R 2025-27, and this was included in the previous presentation. Are there any questions on this resolution? All right. Not hearing any. Alejandro, would you please read the action into the record?
Resolution number R 2025-27 is a resolution of the Board of the Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority, amending the adopted 2025 budget for the Everett Link Extension and Operations and Maintenance Facility North Project Phase 2 work for additional project development services, including advancement of conceptual engineering, preparation of the draft EIS, and staff augmentation utilizing MATOC project management services by A, increasing the authorized project allocation by $120,300,000 from $196,942,000 to $317,242,000, and B, increasing the adopted 2025 annual project budget by $8 million from $44,115,000 to $52,115,000.
Thank you. Is there a motion to forward R 2025-27 to the board with a due pass recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Board Member Bernie.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of R 2025-27 being forwarded to the board with a do pass recommendation, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. All right, moving to item number 8. That is reports to the committee, the Westlake and Everett Link Extension Cost Savings Work Plan Update. And I'll ask Terry Mestis, our Capital Delivery, I said that wrong twice today, Deputy CEO, to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. We're happy to be here today to provide a cost work plan update. You may recall that earlier this year, we provided a Q1 and Q2 cost work plan update. And so we're going to go into some very project-specific information today. I'm joined here with 2 of the Capital Delivery Executive Directors, Brad Owen and Manan Garg. Let's go to the next slide, please. What we'll be covering today is a quick overview on the cost work plan, and then we're going to provide the overview and opportunities on both West Seattle Link Extension and the Everett Link Extension, and end with some next steps. Let's go to the next slide, please. I know that the committee has seen this slide before, but I'll quickly go through it. Our cost savings work plan for capital delivery consists of programmatic opportunities. These are opportunities that apply to the entire portfolio, and project-specific opportunities that are unique to individual projects. These opportunities not only will provide benefits in terms of cost efficiency, but will also improve the passenger experience and lower operations and maintenance costs, as well as other benefits. If we look at the purple box here on the right, we'll be covering the Everett Link Extension there under conceptual engineering, and West Seattle under post-preliminary engineering. Let's go to the next slide, please. We've seen these levers before. Lever 1, easiest to implement, going down to lever 4, more complexities. Lever 1 is the project level decisions or opportunities that can be made at the project level. These are design optimizations, materiality, approach to the project. Lever 2, interdepartmental opportunities where we're working across Sound Transit with other departments to implement. And then levers 3 and 4 begin to look at scope. We're going to give you examples across those levers for the 2 projects ahead. Let's go to the next slide, please. I call this slide the funnel slide. What it's showing us here is that as projects progress through the design process, there is more confidence in the cost estimate. If we go over to the left-hand side, when we started the projects with very little to no development and design, parametric estimating was used. Today, the projects have progressed. You can see there Everett is at 10%, West Seattle is at 30%, and we are now using bottoms-up estimating to provide costs. The sheer use of bottoms-up estimating does create more confidence in the numbers that we'll be presenting. With that, I'd like to see if CEO Constantine would like to add information.
Well, thank you. You've essentially made the point. As we've done this bottoms-up estimating, we have a lot more clarity about what the actual cost will be. Those estimates have caused us to increase the amount we think each project is going to cost, and actually also increase the amount of contingency that we build in. But it does narrow the uncertainties, effectively narrow this funnel as we're moving along. We know a lot more about what the ultimate cost will be than we did even 6 months or a year ago. This is a really fascinating exercise, though, because as we move forward in this process, over time, we'll be able to be more and more confident about being able to recapture contingency, which can then be used for later projects in the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide, please. From here, I'm going to hand it off to Brad Owen to go over West Seattle.
All right. Thank you, Deputy CEO Mestis. Good afternoon, chair members, or Madam Chair and members of the committee. So we're going to start with a detailed look at West Seattle Link Extension, and then I will hand it over to my colleague Manon for a similar look at Everett. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, West Seattle alignment adds 4.1 miles of light rail service, which would reduce travel times from West Seattle Junction to the Westlake Station from 30 minutes to roughly 16 minutes upon completion of the Ballard Link extension. It also improves transit service frequency, reliability, and capacity for West Seattle and for the future communities, particularly when Ballard is online and the 3-line extends to Everett. Facilitates redevelopment near stations with focus on affordable housing, also provides a travel alternative to the West Seattle Bridge, and will accommodate future expansion to the south beyond West Seattle as identified in the long-range plan. Next slide. So on this slide here, we show on the right the current project cost for West Seattle in 2025 dollars. On the left, you can see what's carried in the finance plan. In the fall of last year, we reported the cost range for West Seattle to be 6.7 to 7.1 billion in 2024 dollars. That has been escalated to the 7.1 to 7.9 in 2025 dollars that you see before you there, depicting the cost of time for these projects. The bullets on the right there remind us that we've used a bottom-up cost estimating approach. There have been no cost-saving levers applied to the current cost estimates shown. And we are also carrying total project contingency in this number, which has been alluded to previously. And that will be described in a little bit more detail on the next slide. Next slide, please. So here you see the same numbers, but a breakdown of the West Seattle cost components that make up the total project costs. The categories are construction, contingency, indirects, and right-of-way. The construction cost increase reflects the effects of historic inflation, tariffs, labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, to name a few of the cost drivers that we have mentioned as a part of the Enterprise Initiative and Enterprise Work Plan. The project here, West Seattle, is a complex rail alignment with at-grade aerial and tunnel guideway, along with a retained cut station and a tunnel station. There's also a significant water crossing, which requires special construction methods across the Duwamish. Moving to contingency, you can see that the contingency has increased. It is now being carried forward in accordance with FTA Oversight Procedure 40, which provides guidance to carry specific contingency percentages at certain design milestones. I will note that the increase in contingency reflects both an adjustment to accommodate increased construction costs and alignment with OP 40, and the consolidation of contingency into one bucket. In other words, risk and contingency have been stripped out of construction right away in other areas and moved into contingency. Indirects are being calculated as a percentage of costs, and you will see that this percentage will roughly be the same for all of the ST3 link extensions. For right-of-way, you see the total has decreased slightly. In reality, right-of-way costs have increased. However, as mentioned before, the contingency has been taken out of right-of-way and moved into the contingency bucket. So there you will see a small change in right-of-way, but a much larger change in the contingency. Next slide. So this slide shows the cost breakdown as a percentage of total project costs. You can see contingency in the upper left of that pie there, hovering at approximately 30% of total project costs. Once again, in accordance with the FTA OP40 guidance. Additionally, you'll see station stops and terminals, which is where all of the costs to construct the 4 West Seattle Link Extension stations is carried. 16% of the total project cost for stations reflects the increased costs associated with the retained cut station at Avalon and a tunnel station at Alaska Junction, and also a complex at-grade interchange transfer station near the heart of SoDo. Guideway and track elements include the Duwamish Bridge crossing, 1 mile of twin-bore tunnel, and the connection to the OMF Central facility. And then right-of-way costs are reflective of rail construction in a high-density urban corridor. Next slide. All right, so now that we've discussed the breakdown of the project costs, we're going to look at the opportunities that the work plan efforts and the specific levers provide. In the middle of this slide, you will see the pink alignment bar that orients us to the finance plan of $4.2 billion. And as a reminder, these are all escalated to 2025 dollars. Starting with lever 1, you can see a reduction of approximately 5 to 6% in project costs. Moving down to lever 2, you see the cumulative reduction moved to 8 to 11%, and is cumulative because lever 2 includes lever 1 opportunities, and that's true as we move down the levers. Moving to lever 3, and then as a reminder, lever 3 are those opportunities that require coordination with the board and/or external partners, such as scope reduction. You can see there the cumulative reduction available in lever 3 up to 17%. And then finally, lever 4, which is phasing to construct the minimum operable segment of the project, moves us within the finance plan with a total reduction of project costs in approximately 50% range. In April of this year, the board approved the phase 1 of the engineering design services contract, or EDS, which focused on validating the opportunities that staff had identified in each of these levers in the first part of this year. We're pleased to report that the EDS has indeed validated these cost savings opportunities that are presented here. And we're going to show some examples of the work within some of these levers starting on the next slide. So as I mentioned, stations constitute the largest proportion of construction cost for the West Seattle project. Here you're looking at a depiction of the SODO station and some foundation optimizations. We have had this before the committee and the board before. Station optimization is a high priority for the agency across all of the projects in the ST3 program, and it represents opportunities in all of the link extension projects. For this project specifically, the design of the SODO station has undergone iterations to optimize the proposed square footage, vertical transportation requirements, and the platform area in an effort to reduce cost and schedule while maintaining the desired safety and passenger experience outcomes. Specifically, by optimizing the station design, we can reduce the concourse level square footage by 2/3. We can reduce redundancy in the vertical circulation while maintaining the required transfer times and passenger experience. And then we can begin removing 60-foot deep drilled shafts from these foundation designs that were in the original PE. As I stated before, the design contract that the board approved phase 1 earlier this year has validated these design options, and they are also exploring additional opportunities for cost savings in this area. Next slide, please. So here you see aerial guideway and foundation optimization. Again, an opportunity that has been before the committee and the board. Guideway and track elements constitute roughly 14% of the West Seattle infrastructure cost drivers. Over 3/4 of the guideway is elevated bridge structure with large and deep foundation systems. So after review of the proposed bridge structure and the contracting strategy, as well as getting updated information from the early geotechnical investigations, we have identified substantial cost and saving schedules, and we have validated those, such as combining all elevated guideway into one contract package, changing the construction methodology to precast segmental to realize economy of scale, and all of this while achieving safer, faster, and higher quality construction. This has the added benefit of reducing impacts to the community, reducing impacts to the right-of-way, reducing impacts to sensitive environmental areas and other third-party stakeholders. We have validated these proposed optimizations. We are also looking further to further refine the alignment and optimize the foundation design. We believe that there are more opportunities for cost and schedule here. We're also looking at simplifying the cable stay bridge design to increase the construction efficiency, reduce the foundation sizes near the Duwamish to reduce costs. Next slide. So here the opportunity is the SODO Station West shoe fly. This is a construction efficiency opportunity. This slide explores the location and requirements for the SODO Station shoe fly. For reference, a shoe fly is a temporary track that gets built to let trains keep moving while construction or maintenance is being performed on the main alignment. So basically just a detour for trains. In this case, the main alignment is the one line, and it must remain active during the construction of the SOTO station. So in the preliminary designs, the one line was proposed to be temporarily routed to the east, the depiction on the right there, through private property that would be required, and it would utilize a costly temporary track that we would ultimately demolish at the end of the project. In combination with the SOTO station optimization we covered on a previous slide, we've identified ways for the one line to be routed to the west onto the permanent three-line track alignment. And the construction of the new SOTO station can be safely phased, avoiding expensive property acquisitions and construction of disruptive temporary work. I will note that there is an interface here with the Ballard Link Extension Project, and the impacts of this opportunity need to be further refined in relation to the Ballard Opportunity Register. Next slide. So here you see the Alaska Junction Station optimization. North is to the left. The large gray box there in the middle of the slide is Jefferson Square, and the station is currently aligned under 41st Avenue Southwest. The original design of the Alaska Junction Station included a crossover and tail tracks south of the station box in 41st Avenue that extended construction work for the full block between Southwest Edmonds Street and Southwest Hudson Street. And that, if you're looking at the picture, there's a bubble that says remove tail tracks south of AJS. That is pointing to the location that I'm talking about. So the original design had significant impacts to the community, significant right-of-way challenges. A lot of existing utilities required a remote traction power substation construction, remote fan plant construction. And as you can see, basically a full block of residential property acquisitions and all of the temporary construction impacts that come with it. We have done some rail system modeling, and that has shown us that removal of the tail tracks and shifting the crossover to the north of the station works from an operational perspective. I will note there's some interdependencies with this opportunity and other West Seattle opportunities that require further study and coordination with service delivery. However, if realized, this opportunity would reduce construction impacts, reduce risk, and would reduce the right-of-way needs in the area that we spoke about. Station optimization efforts in this area have also led to consolidation of the traction power substation and the required tunnel ventilation system at this area. We are doing further refinements and assessing opportunities to include the potential removal of the north head house, platform widths, vertical transportation optimization. All of these things are ideas that we have further identified, but we do need to do more work in order to realize these benefits. Next slide. So this next opportunity is the elimination of the Avalon Station. It was studied in the FEIS and is a lever 3 opportunity which would require board direction. North is to the top, and the project to be built alignment is shown in red there with the X's through it. The project to be built alignment includes a retained cut Avalon Station with a tunnel portal, and although that tunnel portal is not shown on the slide, it would roughly be in the middle of that red line. A proposed tunnel alignment is shown as the black line, with a new portal location shown as that black bracket or staple there that you see near Southwest Avalon Way and Southwest Yancey Street. This is a preferred site for launching the tunnel boring machine, given favorable geography of the site. And although the tunnel alignment here adds tunnel length, it leads to a more efficient tunnel and track geometry for train operation and significantly reduces the surface impacts in this area. The cost of the Avalon Station itself, property acquisition, and some costly improvements to the city street network would be avoided. And we believe there are further opportunities to optimize the portal location and alignment between Delridge and Alaska Junction. These could potentially reduce impacts to ecological and community resources, specifically Longfellow Creek and the West Seattle Health Club. Next slide. Here, what you can see is the phasing option for West Seattle. We're not going to discuss the phasing of this in detail, only to point out the MOS for West Seattle, as all other projects, is a lever 4 decision to be made by the board. The MOS is from Soto Station to Del Ridge. Ridership projections are shown on the bottom bullet there on the left-hand side. And should the board choose this option, staff would need to perform additional work to convert Del Ridge to a terminus station capable of future expansion and ensure that the terminus station was designed and built in a manner that best services the community. Next slide. So next steps for West Seattle would be a strategic approach that staff would provide to the board that would allow the project team to reduce costs while giving the board maximum flexibility. As I've mentioned, there are many opportunities that we've identified during the first phase of the EDS that we believe need further study. We continue through that to identify cost savings and community impact reductions. We believe there is opportunity to utilize board-approved allocated budgets and shift money through phasing, which would allow us to minimize costs and schedule delays, give the board off-ramps, and minimize adding money to the project at this time. And then obviously, as you saw in the first slide we presented, staying on schedule alleviates that cost growth due to inflation and the market conditions, the year of expenditure growth. That is all I have for West Seattle. Everett is next. I'm not sure if we want to stop and take questions or move straight to Everett.
All right. Thank you, Brad. Time to come out of the tunnels. Moving on to Everett Link Extension Program. Next slide, please.
Chair Backus? Never mind. I saw a hand and now it's gone. My apologies.
No worries. Okay. Right. Again, just to bring us back in terms of scope, reach, and benefits, Everett Link is a 16-mile light rail extension from Linwood to Everett with 6 new stations with 1 provisional station. This extension completes the North Corridor, providing a major transportation upgrade in region and especially for the Snohomish County following the success of Linwood Link extension. This extension also provides commuter efficiency and reduces the number of cars in major highways like I-5, SR 99, improving overall traffic flow and air quality. Again, links residents to 100,000 plus regional jobs, enhancing workforce access and facilitating growth and development, especially around station hubs such as Spainfield, Boeing. Next slide, please. So as Brad alluded to for the West Seattle, the left blue column reflects the finance plan for the Everett Link extension, and the right column shows the updated estimate for Everett Link extension. Again, all numbers or dollars are in 2025 dollars. Our estimate has grown from 6.6 to 6.8 to 7.7 billion range. This largely reflects today's construction market and a realignment of contingency to meet FTA requirements. And in the next few slides, I'm going to walk you through each component of these cost drivers. Next slide, please. Similar to what Brad said for the West Seattle, moving from construction contingency indirects to ROW. As far as construction is concerned, it's now projected at 3 to 3.4 billion, reflecting today's higher market prices. Contingency has grown from 1.4 billion to around 2.2 billion, again, to realign with to meet OP40 oversight requirements, as well as the uncertainties at this level of design. Indirects are scale as percent of hard costs. Everett Link has decreased from 1.4 billion to 1.2, driven by the project direction and the less complexity on it. Right-of-way was adjusted slightly, 0.7 billion, which is now around 0.8 to 0.9 billion after shifting right-of-way contingencies into the overall contingency bucket. Again, these numbers do not reflect any potential cost savings. Next slide, please. This slide actually illustrates the key cost drivers. And to Brad and Deputy CEO Mestis' point, the guideway and the track shares the 23% of the major construction component. Elevated, because it's the elevated alignment, Everett features around 11.5 miles of aerial guideway, which is more expensive than the service options. Unlike other link extension projects, this is Everett's largest cost driver. Contingency is around very consistent around what you have seen on the other projects, 29%, reflecting the uncertainty at this stage and the FTA requirements. Right-of-way is around 13%, includes WashDOT compatibility requirements, adding slight complexity to the project. Indirects is around 14%, driven by project duration and scale. Other elements such as stations, systems, site work make up for small shares but remain important contributors. Next slide, please. While costs have grown, this framework shows what you saw in the Seattle and previously, that we have practical levers, especially lever 1 and 2, to apply that gives us a clear path back for the effort link to be in the finance plan. Levels 1 and 2 together reduces the cost cumulatively by 11 to 14%, bridging the estimates close to the finance plan target. These opportunities can be decided at the project and agency level. This indicates a highly likelihood of reaching the finance plan without needing levers 3A, 3B, or 4 for Everett Link Extension project. Levers 3A and 3B offer larger reductions, but are more challenging to implement, requiring broader external coordination and potential scope impacts. Lever 4, which is phasing, reminder, segment 1 is equal to the phase for Everett Link, provides the largest potential savings, which is around 45 to 47%, but significantly alters scope and delivery timeline. Implementation will require both planning and disciplined execution, coordination across projects, interdepartmental, and external stakeholders. Next slide, please. Now let's dive into some cost opportunities very similar to what Brad presented. And if I can draw your attention to the top left-hand corner of the slide, this actually identifies the opportunity number and the phase and the leverage applies to. The proposed future station location on the Ashway is a lever 1 opportunity and can be implemented at the project level. The proposed future station locations are marked as A on the pink alignment and marked as D in the blue alignment. These alignment alternatives are being studied as part of the DIS. Changing an aerial station to an add-grade open trench, as shown in the picture on the right, pulls the station closer to the I-5 to reduce property displacements. And the potential range of saving is shown in the right bottom corner in 2025 dollars. Next slide, please. What you see in front of you is the lever 2 opportunity. This provides around $60 million savings in right-of-way, alone by moving the pocket track, which is basically used for service reliability, storage, and recovery of the operations, away from a retail area and thus reducing commercial displacement. D, Station D, shown here in the green line, is the more favorable location for the station, and along with our conversations with stakeholders and transit partners. Again, the ROM includes the right-of-way savings shown on the right-hand side of the slide. Next slide, please. This is lever 3 change, which will significantly reduce residential displacement in historically underserved community, but requires entry into WashDOT's expansion zone. This will require close coordination with our partners in WashDOT as we move the project forward. This opportunity also eliminates need for 2 additional long-span bridges crossing SR 526 and avoids a pinch point at the USPS facility on the north side of the SR 526. And in turn, it fetches us $18 million in savings. Next slide, please. Another level 3 opportunity, this changes the alignment from elevator to add-grade along Airport Road. It is compatible with both Southwest Everett Industrial Station A and Southwest Everett Industrial Station C locations, but will require closure of the 94th Street. The ST team is studying traffic impacts of this closure and will share this analysis with Snohomish County officials when completed. Next slides, please. Just to bring us back, as part of the realignment back in 2021, Resolution 2021-5, the board's recommendation was for 2 delivery timelines. Begin the service on the entire alignment in 2037 or complete in 2 segments if full funding is not available. The minimal operating segment or segment 1 would be completed in 2037 from Linwood to the Southwest Everett Industrial Station. This does not include any schedule optimization efforts which we are going to be embarking on. The remaining segment to downtown Everett could be operable in 2024. Next slide, please. And in my closing remarks, our focus is in advancing this project, the next phase of this project, with disciplined design to budget strategy that preserves flexibility for the project. By applying cost levers 1 and 2 progressively, we have a stable path, narrowing the financial gap while maintaining the schedule certainty and delivering the draft EIS in January 2026. We will continue to provide the board with regular updates to ensure transparency and alignment as we move forward. With this, I will conclude my presentation and hand it over back to Deputy CEO Estes.
Thank you, Manan. We're happy to take any questions that the committee has.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Member Summers.
Summers. One suggestion on the, and I noticed it more on the Everett Link slides, the slides for each of the levers, a little bit better description of exactly what the action is that would create the savings. I know there was a reduced guideway on, I think, lever 3, but that would help when we're explaining this to people. And the other question I have is the current cost estimate in the early slides, is it based on our current schedule, which in the case of Everett Link, during the last reorganization, we moved it back, like, I think 4 years, which creates inflationary costs over 4 years, which are added. So what's the schedule that's on the baseline now?
The Chair Summers, that is correct. It is 2037 for the segment 1 and 2041 for the segment 2. So it's based on the current schedule, which is public facing information. We haven't had the opportunity to apply schedule optimization yet, but because we are in 10% design, but your understanding is absolutely correct. This is based on the current schedule.
Okay, so there's potential savings if we went back to the original schedule of getting to Everett. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Remember Harold.
Thank you, Chair. I think Board Member Strauss saw me put my hand up very quickly, but I did want to hear the Everett presentation to once again demonstrate our commitment to the entire spine, I should add. But going back to West Seattle, first of all, that Brad, that was really a really good presentation on looking at how creative we're getting at looking at reducing costs and looking at options. So I really appreciated the work done there. Does that pretty much capture almost all of the types of savings and expense cutting that we're looking at, or is there more to come? And that's the first question. The second question would sort of be, if there is additional analysis, can you just sort of walk me through the timing? Will that be at the next monthly meeting or months to come? Maybe sort of just tell me where this presentation is in the context of more work to be done.
Yes, thank you, Board Member Harrell. I can address that. So as I mentioned before, thanks to the board's action in April, we received phase 1 of the EDS contract to begin validation, baselining, and identification of additional cost-saving measures. As I've stated, the good news is most of the things that the team had identified have been validated. We can realize those savings. As we go through this process, we are finding that there are quite a few additional cost savings and schedule opportunities that we can realize. We do not have the resources, the funding under the current phase 1 to push into some of those opportunities. So to keep this process moving forward, we would need board direction prior to the end of the phase 1 design contract in December to allow us to move into phase 2 and authorize more time and money on that contract.
And Chair, if I could just follow up. Thanks, Brad.
Please.
You mentioned something I just didn't fully understand. When you started looking at the possible elimination of the tail tracks, which as I understand, still serves as to allow other opportunities for future expansion. But then you said something about additional work for a terminus station would have to be done. And I wasn't clear if that additional work you mentioned in a terminus station would offset some of the savings by eliminating the tail tracks. Or I just didn't fully understand what you said when you started talking about the terminus station. Can you clarify that again?
Yes, sir. Happy to clear that up. So for Alaska Junction, what we have done is we've begun work with rail simulation modeling, basically taking the concept of operations, running models and simulations to show us how this system will operate. When we do that for Alaska Junction specifically with the tail tracks removed, what we show is that there was no degradation of service to speak of, and we could remove the tail tracks, put the crossover in front of the station, and still maintain the same passenger experience. Speaking of the terminus track that you mentioned, that is on Del Ridge, so that's a separate station. Should the board choose to implement lever 4, which is the MOS for West Seattle, and we only build to Del Ridge, we would need to do some further study and investigation to figure out how to turn Del Ridge into a terminus station. Right now, it's planned as a pass-through station. We would need to do a little bit of modeling and understanding of what it would take to turn that into a terminus station so that it best suited the needs of the community and allowed for future expansion into Alaska Junction and south from there.
I understand. Thank you, Brad.
Chair Backus, this is Board Member Bernie.
Yes, Board Member Bernie.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the presentation. It's a lot of information to take in. I have to share, I was struggling a little bit following along your presentation, even though this is the second time I've seen it. So that's on me. But when you start with the going back to West Lake or West Seattle link, you start out with talking about money and dollars. And then you go to percentages, and then you have your current levers with different colors, and then you go into each one in detail. So my first question is, when you show on page 13 the project level, interdepartmental coordination, external coordination, those different colored options are more detailed in the pages following that. So those are the different things going into it, like the Avalon Station elimination or the Soto Station reorg. Those are the pieces that make up that reduction. Is that correct? So that was a little hard to follow. So trying to understand that those are the things, because once again, you mentioned it in percentages, not in dollar amounts. So it's a little unclear. I mean, I figured it out, but I would say if we had community members who are trying to figure out like how the money is getting reduced and where it's going, that's a little hard to follow. And then the other suggestion I have, to either be consistent in those things or somehow delineate it better, but also you use particular colors for things. So for example, you use, I think contingency stays gray, but then the other colors become different colors. So it's a little hard to follow from a conceptual slide deck. I'm sorry, I'm being critical of your slide deck. But I'm really trying hard to follow it and thinking about community members who might want to try to figure out how this is all going together. The other thing I guess I would just say is in the first one, you say contingency has to be a certain amount, and also that only gets reduced if we reduce costs, right? Construction costs, correct? I mean, or generally speaking, if you can reduce costs, then your contingency goes down. And on the cost drivers of Westlake Sammamish, you're saying 28% is contingency, which feels like, I'm not certain why you're putting that percentage in there, because it's percentage of your full accounting if we reduce other things. I'm probably not explaining that, but you're looking at me curiously. So I'm saying that some of the areas that we can reduce costs are from construction and the other things you've mentioned. And by doing those things, then the contingency would be reduced as well. So putting it in the pie chart makes it a little muddy, because it is a result of your reductions, not the piece of the pie would be still the same, if I remember my math. So those are some suggestions just to help us clarify. And I think that overall, I understand where you're going with this, but it would be interesting in trying to lay all this out, ensuring that we understand exactly, like on the Westlake or West Seattle, I keep saying Westlake because crossing the bridge, but the lever to where we are, ensuring that we understand fully what those things would mean to us. It's just a little hard to follow. Sorry, thank you, Chair, for letting me ramble on for a bit, but I'm trying to make sure that we understand all this. Also, I think Manon has the easier job of all of this, by the way. I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you,
Thank
Board
you.
Member Bernie. Really great feedback. We're going to absolutely fine tune the slides. Additionally, if there's a desire to meet with us offline to really go in a deep dive on the slides, we're absolutely happy to do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the work you're doing with this. I mean, it's wonderful that we're trying to find solutions so that we don't have to reduce our service that we're going to eventually have for our community members. But it makes it easier to follow what actually the consequences would be of these choices if we can be a little clearer.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments?
Chair Backus, this is Strauss.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you to the presenters, Deputy CEO Mestis, Manon, Brad. Good presentation. I've got a number of follow-up questions. So if we could start on slide 33, and then we're going to work ourselves all the way back. We're going to do the spine first and then talk about West Seattle. So this is, and Board Member Summers or Chair Summers, if you want to chime in, feel free to. Don't if you don't want to. But the question statement here is getting to what is known here as the Southwest Everett Industrial Center completing the spine? I'll answer for myself, which says no. Because if you want to tick to the slide previous to this, I believe it's slide 32. I think what would be helpful on this slide as well are the boundaries for the city of Everett. Because you are technically and legally accurate that we have arrived in Everett with this station. However, if I've been drawing on my map, that's why my head's been down a little bit. A and B are inside the city of Everett, and C is outside the city of Everett, right? And so that's, and Chair Summers, if you want to jump in, feel free to. If not, it's okay. I might be carrying your water here for a moment.
The answer is no.
Okay. But just to say, when we talk about Everett, Snohomish to Pierce, Everett to Tacoma, getting to the border of a city is not getting to the city, and just from a common person standpoint. So just want to kind of call that out.
The city of Everett's clearly been the terminus since the beginning of the discussion, so the downtown area. So that's I'd agree with your assessment, Dan.
Yes. So just moving back here, well, actually, no, staying on that slide, I guess similar question that Board Member Harrell had about West Seattle, and what Chair Summers had here is, can you explain more about what do you mean by reduce aerial guideway? Like what does that mean in practical terms?
What it means, Board Member Strauss, is currently the elevation and the structure is actually aerial, but we are looking at an opportunity to actually bring it down all the way to the street level at grade.
Aha. After our experience in the Rainier Valley, I don't recommend that.
That's why it's an opportunity identified. We are only at 10% design, but this is one opportunity. This is one place where we feel the feasibility of actually doing that is practically applicable. So this is not something which we have done. We still have to publish a DEIS. We still have to go through the alternative process, but this is one location where we feel there is an opportunity of reducing the aerial guideway cost. Because if I had to do it in a very simple terms, it's $1 for at grade, $5 for aerial, and $10 plus for. So this is where we have identifying an opportunity. But your point is well taken. We have to go through a full due diligence and feasibility exercise around that.
Thank you, Manon. I can tell you from our experience in the Rainier Valley, it is more expensive in the long run to be at grade because of the additional elements of change that have to go in. Like right now, the gates. It's more expensive because of the collisions that would otherwise be prevented. It is better. It is worse public value because it divides the community that it's supposed to connect. So that's commentary.
Point well taken, sir.
Yes. Thank you. Ticking back here to slide 30. I see that we have changed from the idea, from the magenta to the green as an opportunity, as an option, something that we're investigating. Is that correct?
And that is correct. That is the alignment or the alternatives which we are studying in the DEIS. So those are just different options we are studying. And the D, F, and B are the station locations proposed.
And by doing this, does this then move the alignment away from the church that we've received quite significant outreach from?
We are looking into it. I cannot give the commitment while sitting here at this level of design, but that is on the table to be reviewed and perform due diligence on.
Maybe just helping me with the map here. I believe that the church is under the A of Alderwood Mall Parkway. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
So if we were to move to green, then we would avoid those challenges.
That is correct. And at this point of time, because of the DEIS process and the environmental process we cannot make any preferential choices without people's stakeholder comments being on it. So that's why we are conducting all alternative analysis.
It would also help with the transmission lines.
Yep.
I realize I forgot one question about on slide 32. I know we are going through an exercise of money saving and reductions. However, I cannot help but also look to the future, because we cannot limit ourselves in these conversations. This plan here does not include both a station for the Southwest Industrial Center and the airport at Painfield that has become a commercial commercial airport. Is that correct?
That is correct. So that's why the scope has 6 stations, but a provisional station. And this is where we are actually studying the location of the provisional station.
Because those 2 stations have distinct purposes.
Absolutely correct.
And somebody who's working on airplanes is not going to lug their tools a mile, and somebody who's catching a flight is not going to lug their luggage for a mile.
And that's why we are going to go through the process of trade-offs and the due diligence. Point well taken again.
Thank you, friend. And getting back to the Everett Light Rail extension, so 28 cost-saving levers here. It seems, and just trying to go through this, so with just the option on slide 29, is that the only lever 1 option? So just by the Ashway station, we would bring the Everett extension into the finance plan? Is that what I'm reading?
Board Member Strauss, that's just a snapshot of an example of a lever 1 opportunity, which we wanted to bring it to you. There are tons of it, which we are actually going through the process. But again, I will go back to the talking point when we presented the Everett Link cost-saving levers, that we feel confident, but at the level of design, that just applying lever 1 and 2 will bring back Everett Link into the finance plan. We don't have to go to level 3 or 4.
But again, that does not include 2 stations at Painfield, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I think this is the similar question that Board Member Bernie had. When I'm reading these different changes, on slide 28, we are not seeing any of, or I guess these colors to the right are representative of the cost-saving measures. Is that correct?
The cost, yes, thank you for that, Board Member Strauss. The colors there at the upper right-hand corner of the slide are representative of the levers. So that aqua color is lever 1, that green color is lever 2, and then the yellow color is levers 3 and 4.
Okay. And so from here, with these, is the contingency funding changed here as well? Because I saw, just for Everett, 23, I'm trying to go off of memory.
29%.
I should flip slides. 29% of the project is contingency.
So, yeah, I'll jump in real quick. Yes, so right now we're carrying about 30% on all the projects based on their level of development. That's 40% on hard costs, but on a total project, it's 30%. So it's pretty consistent now with the stage that the projects are in. That's still shown in these slides.
Okay, so just understanding that when we were doing the top-down budgeting, it was less accurate than the process that you've gone through just this year of doing bottom-up, which puts more, it's just more accurate, quite frankly. Does that reduce our need to hold a certain level of contingency?
We're required, based on where we're at today, by FTA, by their processes and protocols, to carry a certain amount of contingency. And at this point in time, that's in that 30% overall level of contingency.
So everyone knock on wood to say that if we plan this project well and we're doing bottom-up budgeting, could the contingency in this breakout be the amount that we are over the finance plan for total project cost in the top line here?
Potentially, as the project progresses, we're going to be able to gain more confidence in the numbers, and the contingency then reduces as the project moves on in its maturity.
Fantastic. As board member Bernie said, Manan, you got the easy job. Brad? Let's jump in.
Board Member
So,
Strauss.
I guess-
Excuse me, Board Member
I can stop.
Strauss. Yeah, I know that you have several questions. I just want to make sure that other board members have an opportunity if they have one. I see Board Member Summers' hand is up, and then we'll move right back to you.
Fantastic.
Just back on the contingency issue, at what level or what rate does the contingency get either released or reduced? I mean, if it's too complex, we can come back to it later, but I'd be interested in when it becomes available.
So Chair Summers, as the project moves to the level of design and as we get into construction, the contingency drawdown starts to happen. The higher the level of design, the lower the contingency you need to carry, because you are moving towards a more certain area of the project.
And if I may, Board Member Summers, this is Brad Owen. The FDA has published guidance, and so at a certain level of design, they require or recommend a certain level of contingency. As that design progresses, the FTA guidance shows that you can drop the percentage of contingency that they recommend you carry. As you enter into an FFGA process or a funding agreement with the FTA, they will go through a process whereby they determine how much contingency they require for you to get into that FFGA process. Once that is done, once you set that, your contingency is set for the project, and then you enter into a contingency drawdown status with the FTA that is measured and reported to the board. I will also note that as we realize these opportunities, and we reduce the construction costs through the levers, we are also reducing the requisite contingency that is required for that. So if we cut $100 million out as an opportunity, we cut out the percentage of contingency that is attached to that dollar amount.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, I have to leave at 4, so I won't be dropping off.
All right. Thank you, Board Member Summers, Chair Summers. Board Member Strauss, please continue. I don't think there's anyone else that has any questions. Go ahead, please.
Thank you.
Continue.
Are there more than happy to jump in front of me, and I'll try to be shorter than 8 minutes so that we can not have Chair Summers here. I'm on slide 19 if you want to jump back there. I'll lead with the punchline and then we'll get into the details, which is this is one of the worst ideas I've ever seen. And we can get into why. But I do not believe that the region or the city or our agency is well served by building from Soto to Delridge. But as Board Member Harrell requested more information about the finances and alternatives here, I am seconding that request today so that we can dig in to understand what is and is not feasible for West Seattle. But if we want to, I guess we'll go to slide 17. That was the bad news. The slide 17 is the good news of this, plus the change of on slide 18 of where the portal would be. These are two really good changes. Granted, I need to know much more information about all of these cost-saving measures as well as the context for the region before I think that removing the Avalon station is a good idea. There's a lot of important reasons why we had Avalon on the original plan, and just saying because we're moving the tunnel portal, that's not a good enough reason. So that's part of this additional information that I'm requesting to really dig in. But here on slide 17, this really demonstrates the strength of the work that I have seen you and other staff doing in our agency, not just here in West Seattle, but also in Tacoma, as we continue to understand what is the must build to have the service work for our agency and our region, and what was the original, if we could have it all, build. And I think really looking at the tail tracks for both of these locations is incredibly important, because if we are tunneling or cut and covering additional space just to have tracks that we might maybe use if we need to, there, and that's the difference between a station, building a station or not building a station. Clear cost benefit is that we build less tunnel, fewer tracks, and have more stations. So I just, as I started maybe with the bad news, I also want to highlight the incredible work that you are doing right now. As we tick into slide 16, can you better help me understand this west shoe fly, east shoe fly? We didn't have these slides in the Monday briefing, so this is all new for me. Can we run through this slide once more? Because I didn't quite catch everything the first time we went through it.
Yes, happy to. So on the right, what you see is the shoe fly that was in the engineering that we went into the DEIS, FEIS with, and the rod. What it's doing is it's bypassing on the right, it's basically building a train detour. So there's temporary tracks laid down, temporary signal system, temporary power system, basically a whole new system for the train. Running through, we would acquire those properties, we would purchase that, and then we would run the one line around as we built the SODO station in the middle of that, in the middle of the alignment there. There's a lot of impacts there for temporary construction. You have to just rip it out when you're done. And so what we've tried to do is eliminate the temporary construction, try to eliminate the impacts to the property takes there. And what we've done is we've identified a way through, coupled with the SODO station optimization, making the SODO station more compact, making the circulation work better. We've been able to reduce the size of that. In reducing the size of that, we believe we can run the trains through on permanent tracks on the left, the west shoe fly. We can run the trains through on the permanent tracks, build the SODO station there next to those trains, and we don't have to rip out any temporary construction, and we can avoid the property takes there that you see on the right in that hashed mark on the east shoe fly. Does that help?
I think we'll have to meet again. I understand the concept that we are able to build and run trains simultaneously.
Yes. And happy to meet with you offline and walk through the.
Every Monday, 11 a.m. I'm always there. Same bad time. I don't want to skip over slide 14 though. Just noting this is another example of the good work that you're doing to really assess what is required and what is nice to have. Again, though, I remind that while the desire to save concrete is immense, the entire south of the Kingdom area, SODO, is all fill. So if the reduction of those pilings means that we are not stable during an earthquake larger than we predict, there's a problem there, right? Just a comment. I do just want to highlight this because this is, again, the good work that you are doing to analyze what must we have for the system to work and how can we save money along the way. Sitting on slide 13, this will probably be my last slide and hopefully be done by 4. Can you, as we go through these levers 3 and 2, which stations are removed? Is that just Avalon? That's Avalon and the Junction, is that correct?
Lever 3 would just be the removal of Avalon. So lever 3 takes you all the way to the Alaska Junction, just removing Avalon. Lever 4 is the minimum operable segment to Delridge, and that would remove Avalon and the Alaska Junction station.
And lever 4 could actually increase costs because we would have to change planning and then come back to redeploy to the location to continue the phased work? Is that?
We don't think that lever 4 would increase cost. We would just have to look at how the station is designed and how we have that piece designed there to turn that into a turn back.
But if time is money and we are still eventually going to get to the junction, then we would still be building to the junction. Inflation would still be going up.
Yes.
Costs would still be going up. And then we would have to be building the terminus tracks and changing the current plans that we have today. Is that accurate?
That's correct, board member.
Okay. So there may be more costs in here than are represented on the page.
If we phase it and we look to see what the next phase is in the future, yes, that would increase the costs.
But so this number here is representing if we just built to Delridge and did not continue forward to the junction.
That's correct.
Okay. So there are four stations here. We have Soto, we have Delridge, Avalon, and the junction. What is the ridership for each of these stations?
For Soto, it's 7,300 daily riders. For Delridge, it's 5,400. For Avalon, 2,300. And for Alaska Junction, 5,300.
And what is the origination of these riders for Soto, Delridge, Avalon, and the junction? Where are they transferring? Are they, I don't believe many people live in south of the Dome, Soto area. So are they getting there by bus? Are they taking a gondola?
Sure. I can follow up with you. I know Delridge is a large transfer station for buses. Soto is also a large transfer station. We can follow up with you and give you the exact details of where the ridership originates.
So original or people who are not transferring, that those folks are coming from Avalon and the junction.
I believe, if I understand your question correctly, yes.
That's where the riders will be living and not be taking the rapid ride to get to the station necessarily.
Board Member Strauss, we're going to get back to you on that. I think we need to just do some due diligence and package that up for you very easily, and we'll follow up with you if that's okay.
And board member, this is Callie Knight, Chief of Staff. I'm recalling last fall when we did the final EIS vote that there were some really nifty heat maps that the planners on this project put together that showed where the ridership would be coming from. I think we can follow up with you with those visuals.
Okay. I think it will be really important to get additional information because just as I'm reading this right now, if we were to go to level 4, those two stations are already transit riders. Like they're already on transit by the time they get to us. Thank you very much for your work. We have a lot more to do before we make hard decisions. I would be remiss if I did not channel my West Seattle colleague from the Seattle City Council who said earlier this week, don't cut any stations.
Thank you, Board Member Strauss. Just to add, so this is really a sampling of the different opportunities across the projects, not representative of all of them. And we also want to show that we're really turning over every stone. So this is offering just a wide array of the potential opportunities that we're looking at. Yep.
Right. Are there any other questions on this presentation? Carrie and Brad, thank you very much. And we do have one final presentation today. That's the 2025 budget amendment to align with agency reorganization. And I will ask Huey Newsome, our Chief Financial Officer, and Ryan Fisher, Finance Executive Director, to come back up and begin the presentation.
Thank you, Board Member Backus and other members of the System Expansion Committee. I will attempt to make this pretty brief. Hopefully we can go through this pretty quickly. Next slide, please. So we are here to propose, or not propose, sorry, but inform the System Expansion Committee of some proposed changes that we have circulated to the Rider Experience and Operations Committee, the Executive Committee, and the Finance and Audit Committee earlier today, who actually forwarded on this amendment to the board for further action later in September. So there's no action being requested of the System Expansion Committee here today. Next slide, please. So the genesis of the amendment that we are bringing to the full board later this month is due to the agency's reorganization efforts earlier this year in May. This was acronymed as Project MOST, Mobilizing One Sound Transit. And at the end of the day, how we build up our budget internally and how this is reported out externally in terms of our lines of business and our project costs, our internal costs go through what's called an allocations process in order to report them out externally and how the board appropriates those dollars. And the biggest impact of this reorganization impacted a singular line called administrative support costs, which are actually comprised of fair and regional planning, general and administrative costs, and indirect costs that support system expansion and service delivery. Next slide, please. So just to show you real quick, organizationally, we build up our budgets based upon our departments and org charts. And in those colored lines there, magenta, green, black, and blue, are how we report out on our various sort of lines of business and functions externally to third parties, but also how the board appropriates the dollars. The yellow bucket there, when we build those up internally, they then get allocated out to those other colored lines there that you see when we report externally on our operations and maintenance costs, general and administrative costs, fair and regional planning costs, and our project costs for system expansion and service delivery. Next slide, please. So to summarize the changes here today that the Finance and Audit Committee forwarded to the board earlier today, the amendment shifts $67 million from that agency administrative support line, $54 million of which to system expansion projects, $13 million of which to transit modes. And because that line, that administrative support line, is also in our transit improvement plan, its lifetime authorization is $1.9 billion. The amendment also shifts $1.3 billion of that to system expansion projects. As a result of this amendment, we are also creating a new line called indirect costs for system expansion projects to further break those costs out and be more transparent moving forward. Additionally, just a note, when you board members see the budget later in this fall for the 26 proposed budget, we will be breaking out those 4 categories I mentioned there that you see on the bottom of the slide, even into more details when we present the budget to the board. At the end of the day, this is just shifting dollars in our board appropriations budget, but it's not adding anything to the budget overall. It's just net neutral. Next slide, please. And this just shows visually what I've been discussing. That column on the left, the pre-MOST structure, was what the board adopted the budget at. The middle column there is the shift that I mentioned earlier, that $67 million, moving $54 million to system expansion projects and $13 million to transit modes. And on the right, that would be the post-amended budget there, bottom line, same total agency budget. Next slide, please. And then this just shows real quick the $1.9 billion, moving the $1.3 billion out of that one line agency administrative support costs, creating the new system expansion indirect project line in the budget, and then moving the $1.3 billion there. Next slide, please. And so here, just real quick, as I mentioned earlier today, the Finance and Audit Committee forwarded on the amendment to the board to take up later in September. Here we are at the System Expansion Committee to inform you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there any questions from committee members? I think most everyone has seen this at least once. All right, I'm not hearing any questions. So we will continue moving forward. Is there any other business to come before the committee today?
Chair.
Yes.
Just thanks and appreciation to you for chairing 2 Sound Transit committees today.
Thank you. It has been a Sound Transit Day, that's for sure. All right. If there is no other business, Our next meeting of the System Expansion Committee is scheduled for Thursday, October 9th from 1:30 to 4 p.m. And the meeting will take place in the Ruth Fisher Boardroom as usual, as well as virtually via Zoom. The link to join the virtual meeting will be provided on the Sound Transit website and on the meeting agenda when it is delivered. With that, thank you all very much. Thanks to all of the staff for their great work and presentations today. And we are adjourned. Have a great evening.